Introducing SpeechAlarm, the most natural sounding text-to-speech software on the market.
All right, these should be dry by now. These have been in here for damn near 3 hours. Just to do a quick test to make sure that these are bone dry, especially before you see any primers. Just do something like that. Just tap it on the palm of your hand if you see any water droplets. The hell am I doing here? Now these have been all resized, and case mouth openings should be nice and perfectly round. So somewhat baby these case mouth openings. Try and do this with a camera in front of me. And this is the continuation of reloading for my 6.5 Mega Mod 10, AR10. So, you guys moved over here. I'm going to double check my comments, make sure that the sound is good to go. And the woman's upstairs doing laundry. I'm going to take a shower, so you might even hear that. All right, so sound is good to go. We already got 5 people watching. And I got to finish the brass prep here. I would like to at least get to seating primers. And the third part will probably be dropping powder and seating bullets. But if you're out there, jump in the chat room, say hello. And so I got this through the resizing process. Matter of fact, if you happen to miss the very first part of this live series, we did part 1 last night. So let me clip you guys out of here. And after this part, this is part 1, this is part 2, you might want to check that out. And especially if you're reloading for your own 6.5 Creedmoor, especially in an AR, definitely check that out. Jason Lopez is in the house saying, "What's up from California? You sound good. Thank you for letting me know." James Hancock is also saying hello. I also got my bag of brass here. Matter of fact, this is a really cheap garbage bag that's actually designed for your car. It's kind of got like a elastic top in the front here. It's got somewhat of a, you know, clip-on handle here, whatever you want to call it, and then it's got Velcro on the bottom. And if you guys happen to watch this last edited video on the SIG P365 P20 at the very end, you guys watched me pick all that brass up. Man, there was a ton of it. Not only my brass, but someone went on a shooting frenzy with a 5.56 and left all that amazing Lake City brass just sitting there on the frickin' ground. So I definitely wasn't going to pass that up. Let's see if I can do this without spilling this all over my bench. But you just open up this bottom part here, and just like that, just going to dump all this right in this cardboard box. I'm definitely going to have to sort through all of this. And gosh, we got 9mm, 45 ACP, just an insane amount of 223 brass. And some of the things I'll like to do, this looks pretty new, and what I like to look for is primer sealer. If I see primer sealer on those primer pockets, I'm not saying you can't put your own primer sealer on your reloads, but that's a good indication that that's factory new, once fired brass. It's probably some non-reloader went out and just squeezed off a few magazines, and this is all the same head stamp, which is fantastic. I don't see any primer sealer on this, but it doesn't mean it isn't factory new either. But more times than not, if you see that primer sealer, it's a pretty dead giveaway that this is been only fired once on whoever was at the range before me. So man, I got 45 ACP and just a ton of 9mm too. So I'm gonna have to sort through all this. Matter of fact, you can see some of this is seating within the other casings. So yeah, it's gonna be fun going through all that. But whatever, and highly recommend getting one of these car garbage bags. Man, it works great for just picking up brass off the ground. So get that out of the way and keep on moving here. See who else is jumping in the Elster's reloading room. Get this off the side. I'll have to clean that later. And I got the other 1,000 pieces 9mm brass over here from my PSA video shooting that dagger that PSA sent me for T&E purposes. You know, that I'm hoping PSA sends me that updated dagger that has the suppressor height sights, threaded barrel, and it's got the RMR cut on there for a red dot. So I'm really interested in checking that out too. So Pony 47 saying, hey everyone. Condition 0 saying greetings from the constitutional state. Yeah, my good friend Eagle Eye Shooting is in the house. Definitely check out his channel. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share his content. Talk about amazing guy, not only super knowledgeable, but just downright awesome American. And he said, I almost bought the same dehydrator, and then my 10-year-old reminded me I live in Arizona. He just threw it on the cookie sheet, put it out in the sun, I'm sure. Jerry Bear Tactical saying, hello, Todd. Drew Bradley saying, hey, boss, how are you? I hope all is well and healthy. So yeah, my goal here, and like I said, we're doing laundry, and you might hear someone upstairs taking a shower, but it is what it is. You might hear that in the background. I'm finishing brass prep here for my 6.5 AR10, and we got this resized in that part 1, got it lubed up, got it through the Frankfurt Arsenal tumbler there, and then I got on the Cyclone case dryer. You know, there's numerous ways you can dry your brass. If you have the money, I highly recommend just getting the Cyclone case dryer. Matter of fact, you check out the description box below, I have a link to one of my affiliate links on there. If you make a purchase off that, it costs nothing to you. I do get a little bit of a kickback on that. It's not much. We're talking a couple bucks. Just being honest with you. But if you do want to support the channel, you're going to buy it anyways. Buy off that link, and it definitely helps my channel, because I tell you, the good old YT is not making it easy for our gun tubers, that's for sure. But regardless, get some type of dehydrator. Make sure the heating element's on the bottom. What's nice about that is you can easily dry 1,000 pieces of 5.56, absolutely no issues. If you do get a dehydrator above and beyond the Cyclone case dryer, just make sure it has a timer on it. Don't get one that doesn't have a timer. Trust me, you're going to hate it. Other ways you can do it, as I've heard of people, and I've never done this before, but you can put it on a cookie sheet with a towel and put it in the oven for roughly 180 degrees or less. I've heard people do that. Sometimes they'll crack that door open just a little bit so the humidity can get out of there. Or like Eagle Eye Shooting says here, if you live out in the desert like he does, let the good old sun do its work in regards to drying that brass. I've also heard of other people using pure alcohol, where they have a big 5-gallon bucket of pure alcohol. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of keeping super flammable products around like that for just drying brass, but I've heard people doing it, and they'll dip that brass into the alcohol, pull it out, and it will dry instantly. It will dilute, so that water will dilute that alcohol a little bit, so you have to, no joke, I've heard of one guy where you know, he'll buy all new alcohol to go through all that, and I'm like, man, why don't you just buy a dehydrator and be done with it? I mean, holy smokes. You know, 1320 is making a good point. I've heard people doing that, a shoe rack, pillowcase, and the clothes dryer. That works fantastic. I've heard people doing that too. But you know, if you want something right in your reloading room, I really don't think you can go wrong with that Cyclone case dryer. The temperature is set for brass. It's got a timer. It's got a water trough in there, so you can just dump super wet brass right out of the tumbler, right into that thing. You're good to go. But with that being said, let's get going on here. I need to get this brass trimmed. I got to double check the case length on this, see if it's even going to get trimmed. I have yet to do that. Matter of fact, I'm going to clip you guys out here, get you up front, close and personal. Just part of the magic downstairs reloading room. I need to get a sheet going here. And so this is for my Mega 6.5 Creedmoor. And this is 50 total pieces, and today's date is 9/10. And we are using new 6.5 Creed Starline. And this needs to be fire formed. This is not even remotely close to what this fire forms at in regards to headspace. Usually I would put my target headspace on here, but this is probably 6 to 7 thousandths of an inch off of true fire where I want it to be. It needs to expand, no joke, damn near 7 thousandths of an inch, and then I'm going to bump it back 3 thousandths of an inch. So this needs to get fire formed. What's nice about this Starline brass in comparison to something like, oh, let me grab something here out of my, what do we got here? Hornady crappy brass. I got tons of this. I wish I could return this. Look at that. Paid 37 bucks for it back then. And it's probably worth $37. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not bad. It's just definitely not Starline brass. And this Hornady 6.5 Creedmoor has large rifle primers for the primer pocket, where this Starline brass actually has small rifle primers. That's kind of nice. You're going to get more consistent ignition of that powder, and that's why a lot of guys are switching over to the small rifle primers in regards to 6.5 Creedmoor. So I got to make sure I am using these and not large. I would never fit it in there anyways, so I'd know instantly. And so I am using CCI, and this is the number 400 small rifle primers. And I'm not sure on the powder yet, and I'm not sure on the cartridge overall length yet, especially being that I got these new Duramags. I got this new, let me show you here. I have these new Duramags, which I believe they're made by C Products. They call it Duramags, but I believe they're a C Products brand. And they're metal. And what's nice about these in comparison to something like this P Mag for an AR10 is this should allow me to see that bullet out further so I can get closer to the lands. So I'm interested to see what that comes up with. So let me keep on going here. So I'm actually going to put that, see, Duramags. This is where just getting a really simple, inexpensive cue cards. I get a whole stack of these at the dollar store for obviously $1. I'm telling myself I need to use Duramags to remind myself. So we'll get the powder in here later, probably in part 2 when we drop the powder with FX120i. And obviously we'll get the cartridge overall length, maybe even the ogive. I might even measure that ogive seating depth on there once we get to that point. But I figured I would have you guys join me in regards to reloading for my crown jewel, and that is the Mega Ma 10 6.5 Creedmoor, the Krieger barrel. It's got all the bells and whistles. So let me just double check your comments here. Like I said, this is part 2 of finishing brass prep hell. What else we got here? So Drew Bradley's saying, Arizona, to dry your brass, just open the front door of the house for 30 seconds. That's the truth. Jerry Bear Tactical saying, I use the oven method. Drew Bradley's also saying, I use the oven Avenue 2. Big beach towels too to start with. That's good to know. So 1320 saying, I wonder how the Starline primer pockets hold up. Hornady is terrible. And isn't that the truth? And be honest with you, I'm kind of switching over to that avenue, so I'll definitely let you know. And 1320 Wolf is also saying she's a beauty. Man, is she? I mean, she really is a beauty. She's got all the bells and whistles. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but 22-inch Krieger barrel, 1-in-8 twist, blended brake, Sirac ordnance, adjustable gas block, whole Mega Ma 10, upper and lower billet aluminum, Seekins ambidextrous controls on the safety and the magazine release. What else we got here? SSAE Geisley trigger, JP low mass bolt carrier group, JP silent capture system with tuned springs. I got a Magpul grip on there with storage in the grip, and I have the Magpul PRS buttstock. Right now I'm got this picture on there with the Archon Optics 6-24 scope with a Bobro QD mount, one of the best QD mounts that money can buy. And yeah, that's what I am reloading for. So Michael Hartneck is also in the house saying hi Pony and hi Jason. So yeah, let's double check some of this brass. I'm just curious if it's even going to get trimmed or not. So I'm getting my calipers here. For those that are absolutely new, I like to double check, make sure that my calipers are reading true. I know a lot of guys have seen this, are probably even sick of seeing it, but for those that are new, I have this one piece of brass. I know this is exactly 1.750. Just make sure that my calipers are reading true, and it's exactly 1.750, so that's good. Making sure my batteries aren't going dead. And if I check out my Hornady manual here, I already know what I need to trim brass back for, but just to kind of touch base with this, because I know a lot of you guys that are watching this are new to the game. And I got this paged out with some blue tape so I can beeline it right to 6.5 Creedmoor. And this is saying, at least for 6.5 Creedmoor, doesn't matter if it's a bolt action or an AR, the maximum case length is 1.920. And they always, more times than not, they recommend trimming back from maximum 10,000ths of an inch. So that's exactly what they're saying, 1.910. Well, I usually don't go right to the very bottom of that. Usually I go maybe 2 or 3 thousandths above what they recommend. So they're recommending 1.910. Usually I'll do 912, maybe 913, somewhere in that range. Maybe try to shoot between those two numbers. So that's at least my method to my madness for those guys that are absolutely new to the game. So let me grab my calipers here, and I'm just going to measure some of this brass. I'm just curious to see where this comes up at, and maybe it'll get trimmed, maybe it won't. So remember, 1.910 is what they recommend. And let me measure my first piece here. So this is actually below. Actually, it's, I wouldn't say substantially below 1.910, 907. It's actually below. Let me grab another piece. Also below. And now, I know some of you guys that are new to the game are like, well, holy smokes, Todd, that is below what they're recommending. Is that bad brass? And no, it's not. Matter of fact, I even know a couple guys that will trim just below recommended. That one's way below. See, I am definitely zeroed out here. Let's grab some other ones here. That's below. Sorry, I'm trying my best to do this with a camera in front of me. That's below. That's below. Maybe I won't have to trim any of this. That's below. Sometimes it's over and sometimes it's not. Now I know a lot of guys that will purposely, that one's right on the money. 1.910. Matter of fact, I'm going to set that one off to the side. I'm purposely going to set it there because I'm going to show you why here in a little bit. That one's a little over. Set that one off to the side. That one's below. That one's below. So Just because it's below doesn't mean it's unsafe. And a lot of guys I know will actually trim just below, just so they don't ever have to really trim it again. That one's right on the money. So let's set that one off to the side. So 909. So I might not have to trim any of this anyways. And really, I'm not totally concerned about, that one's definitely above. 908. 908. 908. Yeah, I'm not totally concerned about the accuracy of this because I need the fire form it anyways. I'm not saying it won't be accurate with 0.008 of an inch of brass expansion to get the fire form, but it's pretty much hovering right under 1.910. Looks like a lot of this is not even going to get trimmed. Might as well do this because either I measure it or I trim it. So at least we're getting a good foundation here on the life of this brass. I might, you know, usually with an AR, you can usually get about 5 fires out of that brass roughly. And you want very consistent brass lengths, because inconsistent brass lengths or trim lengths means one piece of brass has more brass on the neck than the other. And if one piece has more brass length on the neck in comparison to the other one, that means that brass, the longer neck, is going to have more neck tension. If it has more neck tension, it's harder for the bullet. Wow, that one's way below. So the head space on all this brass was super consistent, but the trim lengths definitely are not. It looks like a majority of this is going to be under recommended. I'll probably end up having to retrim all this anyways, because what will happen is this is no joke. When this is stripped off the mag, goes in the chamber, that firing pin hits that primer, the powder ignites with, no joke, 50,000 psi. That brass expands, seals off, and custom fire forms to that chamber in regards to headspace. And it gets ejected, and I pick that piece of brass up, go back to the reloading room, I measure that headspace. That's my fire form brass, and whatever that headspace is, usually for an AR, usually I recommend knocking that headspace back roughly 0.003 of an inch. I know some guys that do 2. I know some guys that do even 4 or 5 thousandths of an inch of headspace bump from fire form. But this is new brass. This hasn't been fire formed yet, and this is no joke. Starting well south of where I'm fire forming at, and even well south of where my target headspace bump is. So I'm not totally concerned in regards to accuracy. It's going to be more about just getting fire formed brass. And the closer you can get that headspace to your fire form, it's the least that your brass has to expand and seal off. The faster that brass can expand and seal off in that chamber, and that's why they use brass, it's malleable. Not only is it easy to bump that headspace and form that brass to however you want in regards to resizing it, but it also expands and seals off really, really well. Matter of fact, if you ever shoot a pistol with a suppressor or a can on it, and you're shooting a collection of ammunition that is all the same grain weight. Say like you got a 9mm pistol here. And let me clip you guys out of here. Say like you got a 9mm pistol. It's got a can on it. And you got 3 different collections of brass on those factory 9mm ammo. One has brass casing, one has aluminum, and one has a steel casing, and they're all 115 grain round nose bullets. And the 9mm pistol has a can on it. And matter of fact, they all have the same feet per second. And I've seen this, I've witnessed it. And you put in the aluminum case, and aluminum case expands really well, and it seals off tremendously well in that 9mm chamber. And it'll actually be pretty quiet to the point where you don't need hearing protection with a can. And then you go to the brass, and the brass also expands, but not as well as aluminum. The brass is more durable than aluminum, but it definitely expands and seals off better. And the faster it can seal off, the less likelihood that gas and also decibel ratings will come through that chamber that you'll hear with your ear. And then you put in something like Tula steel case ammunition, and you'll notice a distinctive crack to the point where you can't even shoot that pistol, even with a can, without hearing protection. And it's same thing with a rifle, especially bottleneck cartridges for shooting something like steel cased ammunition. You'll notice that too. It just doesn't seal off as well because steel is not as malleable, doesn't expand and seal off in that chamber as well. And that's also why your bolt gets so damn dirty too, because a lot of those gases escape through the chamber back into your bolt face and into the bolt, and that's why it gets so damn dirty. And you know, like I said, it's you want to make sure that you get that headspace as close to your fire forming, and that's usually with a bolt action 1 to 2 thousandths of an inch bump back from fire form, and with an AR usually it's 3 to 4 thousandths of an inch. I know some guys that do 2, but they usually do 2, 3 myself from fire form. So let's see what else we got here. So Michael Hartnett saying it's okay, it will stretch. That's a good point. So 1320 Wolf saying, I wonder how consistent the base to the shoulder dimensions are versus neck length. So if you watch the first part of this live series reloading for my 6.5 Creedmoor, the headspace on all this brass was insanely accurate. I mean, it was less than 1,000 inch for vast majority, at least on the 100 pieces that I pulled. That's why I'm really impressed with the Starline brass, and I've heard nothing but good things about it, especially with the 6.5 Creedmoor with a small rifle primer and not using a large rifle primer. I'm interested to see those results. So Jerry Bear Tech saying it would be interesting to see the comparison of the overall length between the Starline brass and that of the Hornady brass, and that's true. You know, Hornady brass uses large rifle primers, and it's just, from what I've heard, it's just not as durable. And I'll definitely keep you updated on that. Like I said, I've yet to run small rifle primer Starline brass through my AR10. It's usually just been crappy Hornady. And 1320 Wolf saying makes the brass last longer the way you're doing. That's exactly right. You know, these guys that are not measuring the headspace and they're just like, oh, just screw down my resizing die till it hits the shell plate and give it a quarter or half a turn or whatever they're doing. They don't really truly know what their headspace is, and they're simply just guessing, and they don't know if they're bumping that headspace back. No joke, 10 thousandths of an inch, and you're bumping the headspace back 10 thousandths of an inch, and then you fire it and it re-expands 10 thousandths of an inch, and then they resize it back down 10 thousandths of an inch. And that brass has to go somewheres in that full-length resizing die when you're doing that. It can't just disappear, especially when you're doing massive shoulder bumps like that. And what will happen is when you push that shoulder back, that brass will grow, and that brass will literally flow through your die. That's why you got to lube it. And that's where, if you see yourself excessively trimming brass off every time you resize it, it's a good indication, especially if you're not measuring your headspace, that you're over bumping that brass excessively. And like I said, 1 to 2 thousandths of an inch for a bolt action. I know some people that do none, or 3 to 4 thousandths of an inch for an AR from Fireform. So Michael Hartnett is saying, are you going to trim it to the shortest case? And probably, you know, what you might want to do is you want to trim all this back to the shortest case so they all expand consistently in regards to the headspace, and they also expand consistently in regards to the trim length. And most likely, if I trim it back that far, which is below recommended actually, I probably never have to trim that brass ever again, especially with a minimal amount of headspace, because I precision reload with bump gauges, and I don't use a case gauge. I sold my case gauges a long time ago for my bottleneck rifle cartridges, but the only thing I use case gauges for is for pistol ammunition, and not only for pistol ammunition, I not only use case gauges for pistol ammo, but I do what's called the barrel plunk test. And matter of fact, check out my playlist area. I have a very in-depth playlist in there of how I reload for my pistol ammunition. But yeah, let's get this going. Enough of the babble talk. What I'm probably going to do is get this close to that 1.908. That seems like what all this is coming out to. Yeah. So this is all coming out to, and I'm going to have to reconfigure my World's Finest trimmer because this is so excessive of a trim here. But 9075, most of this is at 9075 or 908. You know, I did pluck out a few pieces here that are right at recommended 1.910. I think one of these was that 911. But let me show you at least how I set up my World's Finest trimmer. Like I said, there's numerous ways to trim your brass. I recommend not doing it by hand. Get some type of mechanical device. I kind of mentioned this in the previous live series. At least use something like the World's Finest trimmer. And in 6.5 Creedmoor, I have the World's Finest Trimmer 1. So the World's Finest Trimmer 1 is all integrated. This isn't a removable bushing. This is part of the unit. This is dedicated for 6.5 Creedmoor. And this is actually already set up for my RPR with a very consistent headspace that's well above this. And this rides off the headspace with a shoulder datum line. And I'm sure I'm gonna have to reconfigure that. So I'm actually going to pull this trim bit out of it. And like I said, at a bare minimum, I would get the World's Finest trimmer. So here is the trim bit that goes inside of it for those that haven't seen this before. So I'm definitely gonna have to reconfigure that. I also have the World's Finest Trimmer 2. So the World's Finest Trimmer 2 is a little bit different. This has removable bushings depending on what you're trimming. Depending on what casing you're working with, you can actually, holy smokes, that one's in there. You can see the trim bit on this thing is ginormous because this has to be a bigger trim bit because it's got to work on a multitude of casings. This one is designed strictly for 6.5 Creedmoor. But with this one, way bigger trim bit on it, and you can actually remove this bushing. And this actually has the 6.5, it says 6.5 G. Matter of fact, this spins. And you can remove this bushing, actually give you a chunk of dowel here. So you can give you that for a reason, so you can knock this out. So you can knock out this bushing. And I got another bushing in here for my 243. I got a 243 RPR. So this one here says 243. I don't know if you can make that out or not, but you can actually insert this if I want to switch over to 243. And I just reinsert this trim bit and so on, but I'm not doing that. I do have one for 6.5 Creedmoor, but it's dedicated. This bushing does not remove. That is a bare minimum that I would do. I would not do less than that. I would not do it by hand. You're gonna get arthritis. Like I said, I mentioned this before, but I'll mention again. At a bare minimum, I would try and get the Groud tri-way trimmer. Not only does it trim, but it champers the burrs. I know some of you guys are probably sick of seeing this. Otherwise, if money is not an object, I would get the Henderson Precision Case Trimmer, and I might actually get this one of these days. But it's expensive, like no joke. Case trimmers with the motor, and that's probably what I'll end up getting. Where is it? Yeah, right here. $780 for this bad boy, but man, this is the Cadillac of trimming. Chamfer and DeBurr all in one step trimmer, but then again, it's damn near $800, and I believe it's cutter and collet specific. So you got to buy other collets and cutters along with this thing. So not only are you going to spend this, but I'm sure there's probably shipping. I don't know if there's tax maybe, but you're going to be well frickin' north of
those to whatever length you want. What those do is it stops the hand.
I'll stop that. I don't want to run that too long for CC issues. But yeah, I would definitely check that out. If money is not an object, you're buying nothing but premium products. That's probably what I'll end up getting one of these days if I ever win the freaking lottery. So, but let me quick show you at least how I set the world's finest trimmer up. You can usually, I think these are 60, 65 bucks. Don't quote me on that. But what I'm probably going to end up doing is trimming this all back to the shortest length here of 9065, which, God, it's just grossly below the recommended. I wish it was right at recommended trim length, but hey, it is what it is. But it doesn't mean it's unsafe. You know, we're literally talking, what, 3/4 thousandths of an inch, just to show you what we're talking about here. For those that are absolutely new, if I zero this out, if I get 4 thousandths of an inch, right. Man, that's how hard it is to get 4 thousandths of an inch on my calipers. Right there, that's 4 thousandths of an inch. Can you see the light through these calipers? I mean, it is so minuscule. And I know some guys, especially if you're new to reloading, you're like, oh my God, it's 4 thousandths of an inch because it's safe. Is this okay? Is it safe to shoot in my rifle? And I can barely see the light through these calipers at 4 thousandths of an inch. You're literally, that's all you're talking about. And what will happen is when this fire forms and I resize this brass is definitely going to grow. I'll probably end up, it's going to expand roughly 7 thousandths of an inch. I'm going to bump it back 3 to 4 thousandths of an inch. And I'm really not concerned about it. Now, if it was 20 thousandths of an inch below, that's where I'm going to start getting a little concerned. Also, if you're not rocking an anvil on your calipers, you really should be, in my opinion. Gives very consistent readings, especially when you're reading headspace, and that's why you pop out those crater primers. So your base of the brass can ride nice and flat on that anvil, and definitely helps with getting consistent readings on your calipers. But yeah, just double check this again. So I think, like I said, I'm gonna find one that I want the target to be. So 9075. So how I set this up quick and fast, hopefully this is quick and faster in the live event, is I loosen this up, I can pull the trim bit out. So what I do is this rides off the shoulder of the brass, the datum line. And if you were to draw an imaginary line from the top of the shoulder to the bottom of the shoulder, draw a line right between those two. That's called the datum line. That's what your headspace is based off of. The measurement from the bottom of the brass to that datum line, that's considered your headspace. These specific trimmers and most of these newer trimmers ride off that headspace. You can see there's nothing gauging the trim length of this based off the base. It's riding off the shoulder. And if your shoulder bumps are all over the place, so will your trim lengths. So that being said, what I like to do is I just let gravity do its thing. I take the main body and take the trim bit, insert it like so, and then I ever so slightly put a little pressure on this, not much, and then I tighten this up on the side, at least one side, like so, and then I tighten this. And you definitely want to reef these down so this doesn't come loose. Really reef this down good. Now this should be set up for that trim length. Remember, all the headspace on all this brass, if you watch the first part, was super consistent, and the ones that weren't super consistent, I made them super consistent by resizing them. So they, no joke, I measured every single one of these. These are no joke within less than 1/1000 of an inch bumped headspace. That's how consistent that resizing is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to chalk this up in my drill. So let me snag my drill here, and that's how you set the trim length on the world's finest trimmer. Next thing here is make sure you guys there. Might have lost you there for just a second. For some reason my freaking Bigsby kicked in. Let me make sure you guys are still here with me. Believe you are, but let me get through this ad. So I might have lost you there for a split second. All right, so it looks like we're good. Back on track. Sorry about that. Make sure you're wearing these. You don't want brass filings in your eye. Trust me, I've been there, done that. It's not fun. So making sure my calipers are zeroed out. And let's run one of these pieces here. So it looks like that's just ever so slightly nicking it, and that's perfect. So it's just barely trimming that. So let me just quick measure this. And 9065, that's perfect. Because a lot of these other ones are also, so that's 980, but some of these are 9065. And this is brand new brass. Remember, this is right out of the bag. Let me find one here. Let's see here. 9075. I know some of these are all the way down to 9065. Maybe at least shooting for that 907. So let me just reconfigure this quick. Try and hunt down these with 9075. Oh, that one's generous. So those, I'm doing this more for those guys that are absolutely new. Usually I wouldn't spend this much time with trimming brass. Just find one here that's in the low spectrum of things. Make sure my calipers are reading true here. Try and do this with a camera in front of me. There. So 9075. Let me just make sure that this is good to go. And I wanted to do this live for those that are absolutely new, so you know how to do this. So letting gravity do its thing, letting gravity do its thing. Pushing down on the body, make sure it's riding nice and snug on the headspace. Tighten one side. Reef this down. Chuck this back up. So 9065. So that should be good to go. This should be all right at the bare minimum of all these are reading. Which is that 1.907. Let me get this flat in here. So 907, which that is the low spectrum of these trim lengths. 908. So 907. So we're just going to trim it down to whatever the lowest trim length is. 907. This is already 9065. 9085. So like I said, I wouldn't recommend trimming them back this far. So now this is 907. But this is brand new out of the bag that way. So 907. So if I trim this, it shouldn't get trimmed. So it should still be, so 907, 9065, same thing, less than 1/1000 of an inch. So this one's 9085. So 907. So like I said, on a very low spectrum on some of these are, this one's already 907 right out of the bag, brand new. Should get trimmed. So it's still the same, 907. So I'm just doing this more for the new guys. 908, this should get trimmed a little bit. We're trimming all this back to the low spectrum of what is in this bag, so they all consistently expand for headspace and also consistently expand for trimming purposes. I'm hoping this expands up and probably a little bit past that 1.910 of 907. See if we can find another one here, brand new out of the bag, that's 907, just kind of prove a point. So 907, you have to trim this. So it's 3/1000 of an inch below what they recommend trimming out of the manual. So still 907. So I think you gotta get my point. I'm just gonna rock through the rest of these, kind of doing this more for those that are absolutely new to the game, and read some of your comments. So that's how you set up the world's finest trimmer in seconds. And sometimes what I'll do is, if that brass, if you are using the world's finest trimmer and it's excessively past, I mean way past what your trim length is, and usually you'll find that a lot with like Lake City brass. It has a very generous headspace and trim length, especially when you bump that headspace back from Fireform. Because you purchased it new, usually Lake City brass 5.56 or 7.62 by 51. It was fired out of a fully automatic weapon, most likely, with super generous headspace, and it was way past what you're fireforming at, and then you're bumping that headspace back. I see it all the time with 5.56 Lake City brass. And when you bump that brass, that headspace back that far, that brass tremendously grows, and it goes way past, like 1/10,000 of an inch past maximum. I've literally seen it that much. So now you're trimming 1/10,000 of an inch past maximum, but then you're going damn near another 1/10,000 of an inch, trimming damn near 18,000 of an inch down to what they recommend out of the manual. And when you're setting up the world's finest trimmer, what I'll do is I'll insert it into the world's finest trimmer and trim it a little bit, take it out, measure it. So say like I'm doing 5.56 for pure example's sake, and my recommended trim length is 1.750. That's why I have this piece at 1.750, because that's the recommended trim length for 5.56. But say like your trim length is 20,000 of an inch over, like no joke, 15,000 of an inch over what they recommend, is I'll insert that into the world's finest trimmer, trim it ever so slightly, take it out, measure it. It's getting close to what I want. Insert it back in, trim it a little bit more, take it out, measure it. It's getting super close, like within 2,000 of an inch of what I'm looking for in regards to trimming my brass. I'll insert it back in and just kiss that cutter a little bit, take it out, measure it again, and bam, it's right at 1.750. But it's not engaging the datum line yet. So what I'll do is, now that I have the trim length at what I want, at 1.750, I will take the trim bit out, just like I just shown you, and let gravity do its thing in regards to that trim bit, and then tighten this back home. Bam, it's set, ready to rock and roll. And usually I can get that done in less than a minute. And I know when you're first starting out, especially with world's finest trimmers, I've seen guys like, man, if I can't get this freaking trimmer to get to cut properly, and that's how you do it. But hopefully that helps you guys out, especially those that are absolutely new. So let me quick finish this up. If you got any questions, jump in the reload room. Now this brass here, the side, was excessive. That's why I set that off to the side. So this was 910. This is definitely going to get trimmed. And bam, 1.907, just like that. That's what it's all about. Let me grab another one here. So this is 910. That's what I would like to have, but this is brand new brass. Most of it's below that 3/1000th of an inch. So we're just going to trim this all back. You can see it's got a peened case mouth opening from the stainless steel washer. So it's not shiny on the case mouth opening. And now it is. So it's got a nice harsh cut, nice and shiny in the case mouth opening. See if I can get you a little bit closer there. So you can see that really shiny cut now. It's very harsh and abrasive. That's why we got to chamfer the outside to protect the chamber. We got to chamfer the inside with a small bevel so it protects the bullet when you seat it. And that one really close. Make sure I trick this all the way. And just like that, 1.970 like the rest of them. Fresh out of the bag. So 9065. So enough of babble talk, at least showing you guys that are new the method to the madness here. Finish these up. Let's see who else is. So Michael Hartneck saying, did you check more than one book to trim to? And no, you really don't need to. It's kind of a universal thing. I don't care really what book you're checking. There's kind of a universal norm of what's recommended. And usually it's 10,000 of an inch from maximum. And that's more from Sammy specs than anything. So there's if you find it in one manual, you're most likely going to find it in the rest. Like I said, I usually trim 2,000 of an inch above recommended. So if they're recommending, in this example, 6-foot high Creedmoor of 1.920, it's 10,000 of an inch back from maximum of that to recommended, or 1.910. Usually I go 2,000 of an inch, but like I said, this is brand new brass. It's below that 1.910. So I'm going to trim all these back to the smallest trim length, which was 1.907. So we're literally talking 3,000 of an inch underneath recommended, and that's totally fine. It's not going to hurt your firearm. It's not unsafe. But like then again, this is my reloading practices. It's not yours. Get that disclaimer. So I'm just going to roll through the rest of these. Like I said, I'm doing this more for those that are absolutely new. But getting consistent everything. Consistent trim lengths, consistent headspace bumps, consistent seating depths. It's all important. If one falls, they all fall. So you might have the most consistent headspace bumps, but if your trim lengths are all over the place, it's going to destroy your accuracy. It's one falls, they all fall. I'm going to quick roll through this, and this is why I recommend doing this with a mechanical device, not doing this by hand, because you'll no joke have arthritis. And you know, some of these really old schoolers, especially bench rest rifle shooters, are using like a Wilson trimmer, which is probably the most precise trimmer out there, and it's really great. No, I don't know a lot of guys that modify that to use a drill with it, but man, I just can't do that. I just can't do anything by hand. the least amount of time that you could spend in the reloader room, the better. But then again, I find this relaxing. I find this enjoyable. And like I said, I never met anyone in the middle. Either you love to reload or you hate it. A lot of times when I just want to kick back and relax, that's where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in the reloading room. And you can see how fast and easy this makes. And like I said, trim your brass in a couple seconds here. And I recommend getting something like a drill like this, cordless drill. Just makes your life super, super easy. Now that these are all consistent headspace bumps, consistent trim lengths, now when I go to fire this brass, it's all going to consistently expand. Now, if you have an excessive headspace bump, or not headspace bump, but if your brass has to massively grow to fire form, it might take a couple fires. 2, I've even seen 3, depends on how thick that brass is. If it's a very large casing, it might, no joke, take 2 or 3 fires to get the true headspace fire form on those casings. More times than not, though, if it's within roughly 5 to 7/1000 of an inch, it usually will expand on the first fire, more times than not. But if it's excessive, it might take 2, maybe even 3 fires to get the true fire form reading. And those guys that are not truly measuring their headspace with like a bump gauge, they're using case gauges, especially on bottleneck rifle cartridges. I know everyone thinks their reloading methods, the hell, I got a fly effing with me. They think whatever they're doing is right, but in my opinion, I think they're just totally guessing. So Chris Bullis is saying, I want to get into reloading when I have the place where I can do it. And I hope you do there, my friend. Like I said, I find it enjoyable. I love to reload just as much as I like pulling that trigger. The 10 of 10 is just joining us, has been busy. We got AR10 1776 in the house. And just like that, 50 pieces trimmed up, or at least consistently trimmed all to the same length, so they can expand on headspace and trim length together. So let me get this drill off to the side here and get some water. Now we gotta finish brass prep hell. And some of these have a harsh cut on the case mount openings. So I need to uniform the primer pockets, chamfer it and deburr and run it on the brush, and I'll be done with brass prep BS. So let me get the Lyman case prep center over here. Get you up close and personal. Now remember, this brass doesn't have, let me see where I can find it, right here. For the uniformer, this has small rifle primers, not large. So for those that are absolutely new, there's both large and small primer pocket uniformers here. So let me get my flow going here. So I got the small uniformer in there, and the chamfer and deburr, and also the brush. So I'm going to do this about 5 times, just so some of the guys that are new can see this up close and personal. Let me get even closer here. So this first section here is uniforming the primer pocket. Like I said, this has a small rifle primer. So I have the small uniformer, and this just ensures that the primer seats below flush. And it did cut out some of that brass. I could literally feel that resistance through the brass, and then when it's done cutting, the resistance falls away. That's usually a good sign of when it's done. And I like to brush this off, and the reason why I brush this off is if you get any specks of brass on the shoulder of this uniformer, and you go to put the next piece down, it's going to ride on those specks of brass, and it's not going to insert all the way into the brass itself. So always wipe that off when you're done uniforming. Now, this piece of brass did not get trimmed. It was already at the minimum case length when I pulled that out of the bag. This is brand new brass. And you can see it still has a peened case mouth opening. It doesn't have a trimmed case mouth opening. Let me see if I can find one that does. It was actually trimmed. Where is one? Come on. Where's a piece of brass that got trimmed really well? There's one. So this one, you can see the shininess to the outside of the case mouth opening because it got trimmed and it's got a harsh cut on it now. And you can actually feel burrs on the outside of the case mouth opening. You need to remove those burrs so this is inserted into the chamber. That doesn't scratch your chamber and damage your chamber. And also we need to put a small bevel on the inside of the case mouth opening, just so when you seat that primer, the bullet, that it doesn't scratch the copper jacket. But let's finish uniforming here. And regardless, in my opinion, if it gets trimmed or not, I still run it on the outside chamfer and the inside of the case mouth chamfer. And the reason why, especially if you use a wet stainless steel tumbler, is those pins or Southern stainless steel media in your wet tumbler will peen the case mouth opening. And I don't think it would massively damage the bullet, but we're going for precision here. And if it's not trimmed, I'll lightly put it on my chamfer bit here on the inside of the case mouth opening. If it is trimmed, you know, I can feel that resistance through my hand here. You can see I use my hand as a gauge. So this part of my hand, I rest here. So I'm not excessively pushing this down. I'm keeping this brass straight up and down. And I'll just lightly go through these two steps if it's not trimmed, and then definitely run it on the brush. Run it on there about 5 times. Make sure there's no brass filings in there, and get that inside of the case mouth opening on the neck nice and smooth, and I'll set that off to the side. Now this one definitely has a trimmed case mouth opening. Let's run it on the uniformer. Cut a little bit, not really, not so much in comparison to the other one. You can see the little brass flecks there. This definitely has burrs on the outside of the case mouth opening that would definitely damage the firearms chamber if you didn't remove those burrs, and that's what I'm doing right now. It doesn't take much, just a light chamfer and then a nice bevel on the inside of the case mouth opening, seeing that this was definitely trimmed, and then run it on the brush again. And once you get to this point, you're past brass prep hell. You definitely want to baby your brass, especially that case mouth opening. You don't want to. Wow, I have a nice tight primer pocket, just like all you guys like, nice and tight on the primer pockets. Everyone likes tight primer pockets. Do a couple more here, then I'll back you off. I'm just getting you guys up close and personal, especially for those guys that are absolutely new to the game. All about spreading the freedom knowledge. And I actually watched, I can't remember whose video it was, using the new amp press, where it measures the amount of force of seating bullets. And you'd be surprised how much of a difference it made with getting consistent bullet seating in regards to the PSI, or the amount of force it took to seat those bullets, by running it just this next step. They did it with and without running the brass on the brush numerous times like this. And for those that didn't run it on the brush, the readout on the amp press was all over the place. And just by running it on the brush like this, I would say about 5-6 times like that, just to kind of smoothen out the inside of that case neck. The readouts on the amp press, just by running it on a brush like that, made the difference. I was actually kind of blown away by that, how important it was by just running your brass on a brush like that. So make sure you're not skipping that step of running it on a brush. And that guy, no joke, was using a drill, like a high-speed drill, and just brushing the shit out of the inside of that neck. So that's what, after watching that video, I'm definitely gonna start running my necks on a brush for a little bit longer period. He showed before and after on the amp press the amount of force it took to seat that bullet, or consistently seat that bullet. And just by doing that one simple step of running it on a brush and using a high-speed drill, that changed my thought process on doing that. So let me clip you guys out now. Some of you guys that are new are able to see that. Should be good right about there. Let me get this tripod out of the way. All right, let's get all this jive out of here. I'm gonna finish this up. Like I said, if you're out there and you're new, got any questions, jump in the chat room. I'll try my best to answer them. Let's see here. So Drew Bradley saying, Elster's rifles reloading. I have 3 different chamfer bits, 60, 45, 33 degrees, all for ID chamfer. Does it really matter? You know, to be honest with you, I've never really played with different degrees. I just used the one that came with my my case prep center here, the Lyman Case Prep Center. I'm sure some high-end bench rest rifle shooters would definitely have an opinion on that, and I'm sure there is. I just, to be honest with you, I've just used the one. And I think it really would depend on the bullet flavor or the size of the bullet that you're using in regards to the different degrees. But to be honest with you, I've only used the one. So I'm sure it does matter if you're going for the utmost precision, just logically thinking about that. You know, it just depends on, once again, how far down the rabbit hole you want to jump in regards to precision. Wow, I cut a lot of brass out of that one. Uniforming that primer pocket. It's definitely something I'd probably even look into myself, but like, again, I'm just a weekend warrior on steroids that likes to spread his reloading knowledge. That's probably a rabbit hole I probably wouldn't jump down. But that's a good point. And I'm sure it makes a difference. It almost has to, in regards to how consistent that bullet is seated into that rifle neck of the casing. And that's definitely something I'd look into. Drew, do you find that you're using 1 degree more than the other? I'm just curious. And Alaska 1 Andy is jumping in the reloading room saying good morning. Just working our way through brass prep hell here. Drew Bradley saying roger that, thank you. So yeah, let me know, are you using one more than the other? And I'm just curious of what your findings are on that. That's actually a good point. That might be something I might want to look into myself. I'm just curious, some of you guys out there are using different degree chamfer bits for the inside chamfer, the case mouth opening for seating those bullets. And it's really important that you get that done. You got to make sure you're not scratching that copper jacket when you're seating that bullet. Because if you miss that one step, you're going to put scratches into that bullet. Those little micro scratches or a heavy gouge from a burr because you didn't chamfer correctly or didn't chamfer at all, guarantee you that could be one of your flyers. And if you're not getting a consistent chamfer, that's also important. You can see I'm using my hand as a gauge here, so when I go through each piece here, I'm consistently getting that consistent chamfer. So Michael Hartner's saying, Todd, how's your vacation going? It's fantastic. It's one of those special vacations where we don't really have anything planned. It's just like I get up in the morning, and if we feel like doing it, we do it. Most of it's been spent reloading and shooting guns, which is the best kind of vacation. Yeah, it's just super. You know, I've been able to get a bunch of edited videos done that I haven't been able to do for some time now, and I actually got quite a few more. And matter of fact, my PSA 12-inch upper is supposed to show up today, so that's fantastic. So I can't wait to get going on that video series. And I have the ammo preloaded up just for that series, ready to rock and roll, so I can get some Fireform brass. And I'm just curious, I might have to hunt down a chronograph on that. I know a lot of you guys know that I don't actually chronograph my ammunition. Like I said, just a weekend warrior likes to have fun. But I might have to hunt down a chronograph to see what the difference is between the new 12-inch, my 18-inch, and then my business partner with EP Integrations, Scott Peterson, just got his 20-inch. You guys happen to watch that live series reloading for his 20-inch 6.5 Grendel. I think rule of thumb, don't quote me on this, but I think you're losing roughly 10 to 15 feet per second per inch of barrel. I could be wrong on that. That's going off memory. So I'm curious to see, not only in regards to feet per second, but more importantly, the accuracy. I mean, when it boils down to it, how does it print? Not only at 100 yards, but at also different yardages. Just because you get something that prints amazing at 100 doesn't mean it's going to print amazing at 600 or 1,000. And I've seen that before. Especially, that's really dependent on the bullet profile too. But I tell you, if you guys watch the last two scope series on the Vortex Venom that I just did and the Arc and Optics, that wild chamber 20-inch varmint bull barrel I use in that thing is an absolute laser. That is a really refined pet load that I used in those two scope reviews with a 60 grain VMAX with a flat base bullet, 23.8 grains of Varget at recommended Cole or maximum magazine length for an AR. And that 60 grain VMAX, and I've tested it over and over and over all the way out to 600 yards. That flat base bullet doesn't have a boat tail, absolutely destroys 68 grain and 75 grain boat tail hollow points, clear out to 600 yards. I mean, I've consistently printed sub MOA groups with that setup with 60 grain VMAX. And I was actually quite blown away with that. Somewhat wind dependent, but those 60 grain VMAX, one of my favorite bullet flavors out there for 5.56 or 223. Just not only affordable, pre-COVID, I think I was getting those for $19.99, like 20 bucks for 100 pieces, I believe, if I remember correctly. And when I get done with this piece here, I'll show you how much I love those bullets. I mean, they are, if it has a 1 1/8 twist on the 222, 223 or 5.56, and it's got a barrel length of at least 16 inches or longer, roughly a 1 1/8 twist, it doesn't matter what I put that pet load in, it just performs. And just to show you how much I like that bullet, there's 100 pieces in every one of those boxes. So it goes to show how much I enjoy that pistol. And I got a collection of different bullet weight flavors, ballistic tip, bolt tail, hollow point, 142, 6.5, probably the go-to for most bench rest rifle shooters for 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 bullet flavors. Yeah, 60 grain VMAX. I absolutely love that bullet. Just performs no matter what I freaking put it in. Drew Bradley saying the 60 degree allows the projectile to seat smoother, but requires a lot more time to chamfer the case. The 45 degree middle ground on time, the 33 faster, but projectile seats harder as I see it. That's good information, man. It's all about spreading your information, your experience with everyone else. And you know, like I said, if I wasn't doing all this with the world's finest trimmer, and like I said, I'm probably gonna get that Henderson Precision one of these days. Once I win the lottery, I can spend, no joke, $800 on something like that not only trims but chamfers and deburrs all in one step. That's probably what I'll end up doing, and that way I don't have to do any of this. You can see, if you're absolutely new to the game, that not only am I trimming with the world's finest trimmer, then I have to do the chamfer on the outside and inside. It's just 2 less steps that I have to worry about. And we're about halfway through this brass, and then we're going to seat primers, and then I'm going to wrap this up here. So this is going to be a long episode here. So hopefully those guys are out there and new, you're really enjoying and soaking up this knowledge. And then once you get your own method, your madness down, just do me one thing, promise me one thing, that you spread this information on to the next generation. So Skull saying, I have 250 cases of new Starline 6.5 Creedmoor. The necks are tight, 6 to 7 thou. Hate to fire form that much with the lack of availability of components. What is suggestion expander? And there's a good point to that. It seems as a general consensus that doing neck only resizing is out the window. Most people, precision reloaders, bench rest rifle F-class, PRS, you name it, most guys are not only full-length resizing, but if you want to jump down the rabbit hole, you can. I just don't. I just use a standard full-length resizing die with a button in it. I just like to keep it simple, stupid, and my accuracy results kind of show that. It is just fine in my opinion. I'm not one to screw around with neck tensions too much, but if you are, you're probably going to want to get something like a Redding S-type bushing, where you can play around with different neck tensions, or do a completely separate mandrel process playing around with that. I would recommend doing that if you have the time, especially if you're in competition. I just am not. Like I said, I'm a weekend warrior on steroids. As long as it prints, you know, well sub MOA. I think what my Wild Chamber 223 in the last scope reviews was averaging, no joke, across the board in all groups, 0.5 MOA with a standard resizing die, a Hornady resizing die that I, no joke, got for less than 40 bucks. I'll let my results show what it is. But if you do want to jump down that rabbit hole in regards to screwing around with different neck tensions, I highly recommend doing it. I just don't. I just like to keep it simple, stupid. Back in the day, I used to go crazy with weighing bullets and neck tension and water volume tests. I just don't do that crap anymore. I just don't. I find the easiest method that produces really good results, and I stick with it, and that's about it. You know, the thing is, if you got a fire form, you got a fire form. You don't have much of an option, especially if the headspace is not even remotely close to where you want it to be. If you're starting well south of where your target bumped headspace is, you just have to fire form it. It really is what it is. So, like, just like this. This is going to be, no joke, 4 to 5 thousandths of an inch below my target headspace. So no matter what, I have to fire form it. I'm forced to fire form it. So I probably might not even see the true precision out of this brass until I'm able to fire form it past my target headspace, and then whatever the fire form's at, I bump it back 3,000 of an inch for an AR. Maybe 1 to 2,000 of an inch for a bolt action. And done. Move on to the next cartridge. It's really that simple. So I think I did this. Maybe not. So hopefully that answers your question. You know, if you need fire form brass, you need fire form brass. And it is. The components are hard to get right now, especially primers. Primers are still non-existent. And I just find it so hard to believe that we can't get caught up by now. I mean, what are we talking? Almost a year and a half, pushing 2 years later with no primers? I mean, I don't see that much factory ammunition sitting on the shelf waiting to be sold. So where the hell are all these primers going? You know, about a half a year ago, I was telling everyone, well, it's all going to factory ammo and being prioritized to factories. Well, where's this factory ammo? A year and a half later. I mean, I don't know. I know other businesses are above and beyond reloaded components, whether it's the lumber market or cars or making chips, you know, chip shortages. It's just people don't want to frickin' work anymore. It's just kind of sad and sickening. And I don't really get political on this channel. I try not to. For Christ's sakes, you think we would be out of the woods by now in regards to components. I mean, brass is slowly coming back. Powder slowly coming back. Bullets are slowly coming back, but primers, I mean, I don't know. People stockpiling. That's usually one of the first things I'll stockpile on. And if you're not stockpiling before at least a year and a half to 2 years before election, then you're going to be hurting after that first day of the election, because it seems like the last 4 election cycles, reloading components literally went non-existent, especially primers. That's usually the first one to go. I don't know what it is about primers, but that's usually one I will stockpile on, and I'm not hurting right now. I got thousands and thousands and thousands of primers, and it's not affecting me really. I got bullets, I got powder, I got primers, I even have brass. So if you're not preparing yourself for those situations, you really need to. Maybe that's where it's all going. It's just people are hoarding it all. Jesus, I just forgot to chant for that one. I'm babbling. Here it is. Gotta pay attention, not babble as much. So anyway, so what else we got here? The Drew Valley is saying in many locations in northern India, primers are starting to become fair, 30 to 40% comeback, and lots of 50 to 250,000 K orders being filled. Not every location, but some. Los Aussie saying it looks like I can get some sending money them to the States, LOL. School saying thanks Todd, just found my work up 2,000 neck was the best, and it's Kenny's rifle build, love it. Yeah, and that's what I think it's kind of the general consensus in the precision world. Most are doing 2000s neck tension. So if you do want to play around with that, either you're going to be playing with it like something like a Redding S-style full-length resizing die with different bushings, or doing a completely separate mandrel process. And it seems like most that I know that are doing that are doing 2,000ths of an inch neck tension. So you'd be right on the money with that 2,000. So Michael Hartneck's asking Los Austin how much you paying for them. I'm actually curious. He says $39 for 1,000. That's actually really good, $39. I know our local Shields just got some in recently, and they were up to $59 per 1,000. So I actually hooked up with those. I had a a gift card for 20 bucks. So I was able to actually get it down to that 39 bucks. So get it while you can. Michael Hartnett saying, I had a back order 90 days for my new welding leads. Huh. Wow. But yeah, I just don't get this whole shortage. I mean, you would think we'd be caught up by now. It's almost like something like George Soros is buying up all the primers and throw them in a dumpster or some bullshit like that. Not to be too much of a conspiracy theorist here, but God, you'd think we'd have this rectified by now. I don't know. I suppose it's, you know, especially with Biden coming out with his new mandate here in regards to forcing employers, if you have 100 employees or more, that you have to get vaccinated and continue to wear these masks. And it seems like this whole wearing masks pandemic thing, it's not getting us out of the woods. And gosh, you'd think we'd have this all figured out. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So Randy is asking, is there a difference between stockpiling and hoarding? Probably not. I'm sure probably a lot of people see what I got, my cabinet down there, and they think I'm hoarding, but hey, I'm just being prepared. Like you said, is there a difference? And I'm gonna have one more word to the other two, and that's just being prepared, I guess. Michael Hartnett said backdoor gun control, I'm thinking. The last one, Andy, is saying Biden does not have the authority to mandate. No joke. Talk about unconstitutional. I can't wait to see the lawsuits that come out of that for sure. I know the Daily Wire posted today that they are going to file a lawsuit. I don't know exactly how you force someone to do something like that, but hey, like I said, I try not to get too political on this channel. But curious to see where that goes for sure. So Drew Bradley's saying Northern Indiana, the going rate is $10 per 100 pack. I can remember a case of 1,000 like 12 bucks. That's so crazy. You know, usually a good price is $4 per 100. That's pretty normal. That was pre-COVID. You know, we're starting to see $6, $7 becoming the norm right now. Like I said, I'm so happy I didn't stockpile, like you said. I prepared myself. We're getting close here. We got about 10 more pieces left, and then we're going to see some primers. I'm going to wrap this up. This is going to be somewhat of a long video, but it is what it is. Brass prep, hell sucks. If I had to pick one thing that I don't enjoy in the reloading room, that's brass prep. It's probably the most mind-numbing thing. It doesn't make for a really enjoyable live event, but hey, at least we can spread our knowledge in regards to our different reloading methods and techniques. Let me make sure you guys are still live here. Looks like I might have lost you. Plug in my battery here so my phone doesn't die. Battery here. All right, back on track. So let's see if I can speed this up a little bit. So Skull saying, does anyone know what happened to Varget is non-existent? No joke. I mean, Varget is, if I had to pick one powder, man, it'd be a real toss-up between H4350 and Varget. I use Varget strictly, almost exclusively, for my 5.56 and 308s. I do use XBR 8208 in my short barrel 5.56. That has a 10.5 inch barrel because it's a faster burning powder. Try to get that powder to burn up quicker in that 10.5 inches of barrel before the bullet leaves the muzzle. But usually if it's got a barrel of 16 inches or more and a 223 or 556, it's pretty much exclusively Varget. Also known as unicorn powder, unobtainium. In my 6mm and like my 243 or 6.5 bullet flavors, usually it's H4350, and I got pounds and pounds and pounds of each. Probably should get some more Varget. I got so much H4350, I don't know what to do with it, to be honest with you. But yeah, you're right. Varget and H4350, if I had to pick two powder flavors, it would be those. And very temperature stable on both of those powders. If you're absolutely new to the game, you know, you can work up a load in the middle of summer, in the middle of winter, it will shoot completely different. And H4350 for 6mm and 6.5mm bullet flavors, and Varget for 223 and 308 bullet flavors. At least for me, that's why I picked not only those powders because they're temperature stable, or more stable than others, I should say. But the performance is there, the accuracy is there. I see it when I'm dropping different powder rates. I like, for example, I've tried CFE 223 or even benchmark in comparison to Varget, and you can literally see the accuracy difference between the two. And I would say I've tried them all, but damn near. And I keep on coming back to Varget and H4350 as my two most favorite powders out there for sure. And I think that's kind of a general consensus out there on those two different powder rates. So it also depends on just the bullet flavor and the cartridge you're loading for. I know a lot of those guys in the higher end, like 338 Lapuas, rocking the Tumbo or H1000. That's another powder that's next to impossible to get right now. But yeah, if I had to pick two powders, it'd be those two, H4350 and Varget. And I pretty much exclusively use CCI primers. I will use other primers if I absolutely have to, especially when it comes to pistol. And at least for pistol, for my powders that I use, it's usually Unique, Tight Group, and what else do I have? Bullseye. I do use Bullseye for my 45 ACP. Those are my typical powders for rifle and pistols. So, oh, that had a massive burr on the inside of that case mount, though. I could literally feel it through the brass as I was removing that burr. And that goes for all of these, you know, uniform in the primer pack. I could feel it removing the brass. Then the tension lets go. Kind of lets me know that it's done. Not so much on chamfering the outside of the case mouth opening, but I can actually see it. I can literally see the burrs on the outside because it's on the outside. And then on the inside, I can literally feel that tension through the brass. And as I feel it let off, then I know I'm done. And that's how I usually get a consistent chamfer on the inside of the case mouth opening. So I'm curious, any of you guys out there are using a Ground Tri-Way trimmer or the benchtop trimmer, or even better in my opinion, the Henderson Precision? Jump in the chat room and say what type of trimmer you use. I'm just curious, especially if you have the Henderson Precision. I'm curious of what your thoughts are. Jump in the chat room and let us all know. I'm actually curious about buying that for myself. I'm just curious if I want to spend close to $1,000 for just trimming, chamfer, and deburr. I'm actually surprised I haven't already done it, but like I said, you need to win the lottery to do something like that. So Drew Bradley said, I purchased a 1970 Lyman Expert reloading kit at a local garage sale for $20 yesterday from 1970 in the original box. All their case trimmer, progressive press, scale, lube mat, 357 die set, pretty neat. Wow, for $20. That's freaking awesome. Oh, that has another nice burr. I can feel it. So Michael Hardy saying trade you some 4350 for targets. I'm definitely if it wasn't for hazmat fees, I might actually take you up on that. I can't give up anything I got right now. Remember, we're all hoarding. We're not stockpiling. And I think this is my last piece here. So done with brass propel. And I'm going to seat some primers here. And that's it. So that's where this Lyman case prep center is really nice. All these brass filings fall onto the top. And I can kind of just sweep this all away. Just like that, we're done. So right now, that's where I want to baby this brass. Actually, I have one more piece in there. It's hiding away on me. Let's move this off to the side. Finish this one piece. Yeah, so far I'm really enjoying this vacation. I'm just doing whatever the hell I want. Yeah, make sure you guys are brushing the inside of those case mouth openings. It does make a difference for your precision. All right, so let's get some primers rolling here. Get guys clipped out. So those guys that are new, up close and personal here. All right, so we need 50 and expose 50 just like that. Sure, I got the small pickup tube. One of these days I need to get an automatic primer feeder. It's like, where does it all end, right? I mean, you can reload for 30 years and feel like you still don't have the right equipment. I don't know. I have what works for me, and it's not the most expensive, but it's also not the worst equipment out there too. Got this one that flipped over on me. Come on. There we go. And it works. I could keep on spending money until I'm blue in the face. That's for damn sure. So I'm going to carefully set this off to the side. All right, so let's transfer these primers from the pickup tube to the drop tube. I got this set up for 6.5 Creedmoor on the shell plate. I got my small primer drop tube here. So I'm going to flip this upside down. One always gets stuck in the mouth, which I pop through with my weight rod. So, let's see if you guys can see this. Transfer all these, pull up this pin. We bag it over. Make sure I got room for myself. Actually, I think I'm going to move you guys to the other side now I think about it. See this just a little bit better. right. Ugh. All right, I'm gonna make sure we got some primers feeding through here. And we do. And I know some of you guys have seen this before, but those that haven't, like to do what's called the tabletop test. Set it down at a table like this. If it sits down fast and flat, I know that the primer is seated just below flush, and it is. That looks really nice. Matter of fact, let's see if I can get you a little bit closer here. It's one of the nice things about being live in the Elster's reloading room. Get to see all up front, close and personal. This is where I baby the brass and make sure, matter of fact, I'm gonna get the EP Integrations lockdown block here. I'm just gonna put it right into the block. Seated just below flush. You probably can't see this at all, but it's right below flush. One of the worst things is if your primer seats outside of the primer pocket, you can get what's called a slam fire. And that's when you're gonna have a really bad day. That casing can literally ignite before it even gets into the chamber. You can actually feather this off ever so slightly. You see, at least with the L&L press here, I actually spin this 180 degrees, hit it twice, just to make sure I'm getting uniform primer seating on this. Seems to work out pretty good for me. I know it's kind of an extra step, but this is how I prime my casings. And it seems to work out pretty good. And matter of fact, you can see what I'll do is if I want to make sure it's seated just below flush with my LED lighting, press lighting, I'll hold it off just to the edge here, and I'll peer at the shadow of the primer pocket, and it distinctively shows that primer just below flush. It works out really good using that press lighting. If you don't have any press lighting, I highly recommend getting some type of press lighting. Highly recommend getting the KMS squared press lighting. I've tried them all. Nothing comes close to this KMS squared press lighting for sure. Move this over here. Just taking my time, just enjoying my day. I need more bench space is what I freaking need. Moving you guys all over the place. At least you know it's live. Gotta feather this off ever so slightly there. Let me double check some of your comments here. Drew Valley saying, in that 1970 Lyman's loading book that came with it, the debate pistol primer being used in the rifle cartridge was answered. The gauge of the cup is thinner for the pistol, could rupture over pressure. And Michael Hartnett saying, what's the name of the lighting? And it's KMS squared press lighting. Matter of fact, if you check out the description box below, feather this off a little bit more here. I get at least one piece on the other side so it gauges out correctly. Try to do this with the camera and press my way. And as I'm seating these primers, I'm feeling that resistance through the press handle. Being that this is brand new brass, I could feel these really nice, tight, small primer pockets. And as I go through the life of this brass, 1 fire, 2 fires, 3 fires, 4 fires on an AR like this, AR10, probably going to get about 5 fires. I might be able to squeeze out 6. Usually by then, especially on crappy Hornady brass, usually what's going to give way first is the primer pockets. Usually the primer pockets are going to get so damn loose that the primer is damn near falling out of the primer. And that's where you just got to feel that pressure through the press handle. And you kind of keep a mental note of that resistance. Right now it's nice, and as I push that in and I insert that home with force through the press handle, I'm keeping a mental note of that resistance. And like I said, as I go through the firings of this brass, once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times, usually on an AR, usually, at least in my experience, before the brass gets so bad that you know, you usually might get 5, 6 firings. Also depends on the casing. You know, higher cartridges like 338 Lapua, you definitely thicker, heavier brass, you might get more fires on it, but usually for me it's about 5 or 6 firings on an AR. Bolt actions, man, you can go well north of 10 firings, even more. That also depends on how hot your load is. So if you're setting up your EP Integrations lockdown block, if you want to feather this out so you can easily add and remove your casings, not locking it completely down. So obviously I can put this in here really easy. What I recommend is putting one in the corners here and one in the middle. Run it tight, feather it out ever so slightly, and then that's how you gauge your throat opening for adding and removing your casings. Now, when I go to drop powder with the EP Integrations lockdown block, I will tighten this up completely. So while I'm dropping powder, whoa, holy smokes, I just busted off my handle. Holy shit. I've had this press for, holy cow, I'm gonna have to call Hornady and get a warranty claim on this. I've no joke, I've had this press since 2012, so 9 years, and the handle finally just broke off. That is insane. Wow, look at this. Oh, at least I caught that live. Look at that. I'm gonna have to find some type of bar to finish the rest of this. Huh. I'll have to finish this up on my Forester. I can do this, but I've yet to prime brass on this Forester coax. That is insane. Well, Hornady, you're going to be getting a call, and that's not great during a live event. Wow, that is crazy. So, did it seat that one at least? It did. Of course, I got frickin' 6 more left to go. Wow, unbelievable. Well, at least you can say I got 9 years out of that handle. I'm gonna have to finish that up off camera here with the Forester coax. I'll have to get that all set up. At least I got 2 different presses. I can get that accomplished, but that's insane. Jared Tactile said, wow, what are the odds of that happening live, right? I mean, that's more on Hornady than it is me. Wow. At least I said I got that live. So that's interesting. Michael Hartner is saying, are you saying KMS? Yes, KMS squared. So actually check out the description box. I don't think I have that up yet on this live event because I've yet to do it, but my other videos, I have affiliate links in there to show you on Amazon in regards to, depending on what press you have. So, Drew Patterson, can you unscrew off the broken chunk out of the lifting arm, or is it wedged in now? Yikes. And that's a good point, man. I might have to drill and I'm probably gonna, and this has been Loctited too, so I'm probably gonna have to undo this. Curious if I can do that right now. Wow, unbelievable. Yeah, that's on there nice and tight. That is so crazy. Well, like I said, I got 9 years out of that handle of pressing primers home with force. So anyways, I'll do that offline, but I'm probably going to have to tap that, tap that and somehow, or I might have to put a little notch in there with a Dremel. Somehow get that out of there. I'm sure I can figure it out. That's insane. That's not looking good for Hornady, that's for sure. That's, like I said, if you're gonna buy a progressive press, I'd probably buy a Dylan. No, that's all right. Like I said, I got 9 years out of that handle. I'm sure it's just me pushing home with force and primers. Jibber type saying no, it should unthread easily. I'll probably just get a vice grip on there, probably be fine. Otherwise, I think that's it. I can't really go any further unless I finish the rest of this offline with my Forester coax, but it's fun. I'm glad you guys can enjoy that on my vacation and reloads for the 6.5 Creedmoor. This is kind of running way longer than I typically do. You say no audio, boss. So maybe my, no, I got audio. No, I got audio. So, Yeah, like you said, extract with vice grips, I think it'll be fine. But yeah, this is running way long. I'm going to wrap this up. Hope you guys enjoyed this, especially watching my handle bust clean off my Hornady L&L. If you guys enjoy this live content, you enjoy my videos, I hope you guys do. I like just doing this live. I'm going to do it anyways, so hopefully some of you guys are learning while I do it. And if you do enjoy this content, do me a favor, smash that thumbs up, subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell. When you do, make sure you hit notification all. Become a Patreon, that definitely helps me out. Just buying some affiliate links. If you're going to buy something anyways, you go off one of my affiliate links, I get a little bit of kickback. That definitely helps me, because trust me when I say this, the good of YouTube is demonetizing damn near every single one of my videos. I don't really make any money off any of this. I do it for my passion, and I do it to spread the knowledge. And like I said, I'm definitely in the red once I shoot my own ammo. So anyway, it definitely does help when you guys do that for me. But other than that, make sure you subscribe, like, and share, and I will see you guys in the next video.